Welcome to a new fragrance review. Today we're gonna try Pour Lui by Oscar de la Renta. Here is the presentation first. It says Pour Lui on it. And a little information. There's not even much to show. It's just like a silver box with absolutely nothing, almost nothing on it. Now for the bottle, it's some deep dark blue, a little bit darker than a bottle of Montelier that I have next to me. And here, I think the presentation is really nice. It's elegant, it's classic, nothing crazy, but it does look good. So let's try to smell. So when I spray it, there's a little bit of that old school sweetness of aldehyde inside of it. The fragrance reminds me a lot of 60s fragrance like Aramis. It's a fragrance of the 80s. It was made in 1980, but it really reminds me a lot of Aramis. It's a different take than Aramis. I would say a bit more 80s style than Aramis is. Remind me a lot of it. On paper, a lot of aldehyde really is the heart of the fragrance over there. It's not listed in the note, but I'm picking up some either ylang ylang or jasmine in the fragrance. Somehow it reminds me a little bit of Chanel Numéro 5. Remind me also a little bit of Cabochard, but more like the old one, not the new one. Picking up some sage, picking up some oak moss, picking up something sweet that I have a lot of trouble to figure out what it is. But there's some sweetness in the background. Pick up some cinnamon, and I'm not picking up cinnamon on my skin. And that's about it. So on my skin, as a top note, I'm picking up a little bit of anise, a little bit of musk, a little bit of galbanum, a little bit of sandalwood, a little bit of patchouli, and what's really the heart of the fragrance in the top is the aldehyde, the oak moss that are really strong and present. Also, the leather that is really present, the basil and the sage. It's really aldehydic herbal fragrance in the beginning. In the heart, I'm picking up still a lot of oak moss, and at that point the oak moss is really the main player of the fragrance. There's a lot of leather, a lot of carnation that I'm picking up also, and a little bit of musk, a little bit of sandalwood, a little bit of patchouli. Now in the base note, I'm still picking up a lot of oak moss, which is a big thing in that fragrance. Picking up still a lot of leather. At that point, I'm picking up also a lot of geranium. It's a bit weird because it's not usually a base note, but I'm picking up a lot of geranium. And I'm picking up a lot of labdanum. And I would say that the leather that I'm picking up, there's a little something that is not quite leather. And I think this is why it's more labdanum, but I'm still picking up as leather with the labdanum. A bit hard to explain. Picking up some patchouli and some sandalwood also. And then in the far dry down of the fragrance, when everything is gone, there's still some musk that is really present that I can smell on my skin several hours after if I sprayed the fragrance. Projection is pretty good. 6 feet around me, people were able to smell the fragrance, and longevity also is really good. 12 hours, I would say it's around 12 hours. It did last longer, but it did last like a bit less, like 10, 11 hours sometime that I was wearing it, but it seems to turn around that 12-hour mark. If someone tells me it lasts less long than this, I would understand it, and I would not be surprised if someone says the opposite, that it lasts way longer than 12 hours. Now for the complete note breakdown, it's an old school fragrance with a tons of note. So the top notes are aldehyde, lavender, juniper berry, basil, galbanum, sage, caraway, anise, and bergamot. The heart notes are carnation, patchouli, cinnamon, cedar, geranium, vetiver, and cyclamen. And the base notes are oak moss, leather, labdanum, sandalwood, and musk. Now, where I would see this fragrance, for the type of fragrance it is, it will be a great business fragrance. Definitely something elegant, something classic. I would say it will be better off if you're dressing sharp wearing this fragrance, and it doesn't have to be sharp like a tuxedo or a suit or something like that, but at least something with, blazer or a sport jacket, something elegant, maybe a tie without being a suit. That's fragrance that will go with it. It will be good for business fragrance. Finally, don't think it will be good as a dating fragrance. It smells dated in a way. I don't think it's like outdated. It smells like those old school fragrance, and it's not at all what is popular right now, so it wouldn't be a good dating fragrance. In the summer winter spectrum, would be definitely a winter fragrance. Projection is crazy, the smell is really bold and intense, so in summer it will be just really bad, too much. You might be even choking yourself out if you put too many sprays in summer, and in winter it will be able to cut the cold. I mean, if you live in a place where it's extremely cold, maybe not, but a normal winter should be able to cut through the cold. And as an everyday fragrance, again, it's a bit old school as a fragrance, so I would say that wouldn't be so much of a good everyday fragrance, though the longevity works. Fragrance is cheap, so everything works except the type of fragrance. But if you're into those old school fragrance, if you like Aramis, for example, you like those 80s fragrance, and that's what you're wearing all the time, you'll be able to pull it off easily as an everyday scent. Now I've been comparing it to Aramis, and personally I would say that it's better than Aramis. It seems like an improvement of the fragrance. I mean, it was released about 20 years after, not quite 20 years, but something around like 20 years after. So it had time to learn about new trends and everything. I don't know exactly, but for me it's more of an improved version of Aramis. And having smelled Cabochard, the new version and the old version, I would say this fragrance either smell a lot like it used to be in its vintage version, or if it doesn't, like they still did a good job. I never tried the vintage version, but it feels more like a vintage fragrance, not like those fragrance that they re-release and they're different. This one feels like a genuine vintage fragrance, so it's nice. So hope you enjoyed the video. If it's the case, well, like and share. And if you tried this fragrance, tell me what you think about it. Also, if you tried other fragrance by Oscar de la Renta, maybe that little domino shaped bottle or any other ones, tell me what you think about them and what are the good fragrance from the brand. So thanks for watching. See you soon.